Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into something super important and honestly, it's pretty shocking. The US government might be getting involved in Bitcoin. I know, right? Bitcoin was made to be free from government control, but now one of the world's most powerful governments wants a piece of it. The US is considering creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which goes against everything Bitcoin stands for. So is this really about keeping the country safe, or is it just another power grab? Stick around as we unpack this topic and its impact on financial freedom. Now, I know this is a complicated issue with a lot of angles. Bitcoin is often seen as the ultimate decentralized asset. It was designed to let people take control of their money without needing banks or governments. But now the US government wants to hold a reserve of Bitcoin, and that idea goes against what Bitcoin was made for. Is this move meant to protect the country from other nations creating their own digital currencies? Or is it just another way for the government to grab more power? These are the big questions, and that's why this topic is so important to anyone who believes in Bitcoin's core values. So what exactly is a strategic Bitcoin reserve, or SBR? It's kind of like a gold reserve, but for the digital age. Basically, it's a big stockpile of Bitcoin that the government would hold to protect the economy if things get tough. But here's the issue. Bitcoin was supposed to be a decentralized asset, something that no government could control. And now we're talking about the US government collecting it. That's a bit weird, right? A central authority holding an asset meant to fight central control. The government wants to use the SBR as a safety net to help keep the economy stable. This can make Bitcoin seem more legitimate and might even lead other countries to do the same. But there are some big questions. First off, how would the government get this Bitcoin? Would they buy it from the market, which could affect the price, or would they use Bitcoin seized from criminals? These are the kinds of questions we need answers to as we move forward. Now let's talk about control. The US Treasury would be in charge of this Bitcoin reserve with help from other national security agencies. The report says that an oversight committee with people from the Department of Defense and other federal agencies would be set up. That makes me wonder, will the government have too much control? The fact that security agencies are involved shows that this reserve is about more than just keeping the economy stable. What does this mean for Bitcoin's decentralized nature? Could Bitcoin end up just becoming another government tool? The idea of the government managing a Bitcoin reserve makes a lot of people nervous, and rightfully so. If the government is in charge, what kind of rules will there be? Will they be fair and open, or is there room for abuse? These questions are important because they touch on what Bitcoin is supposed to be all about: financial freedom. If the government has too much control or uses its power to manipulate the Bitcoin market, it could go against the values that made Bitcoin so popular in the first place. Now, one of the scariest parts of this report is how they suggest it could be linked to government surveillance by leveraging Bitcoin's public ledger, turning Bitcoin into a tool for surveillance. This goes against Bitcoin's values for privacy and freedom. Instead of helping people gain financial independence, Bitcoin could become a way for the government to watch and control us. So you really need to be careful of which centralized exchanges you use and take care to keep your identity private. Another big concern is market manipulation. The government has talked about using Bitcoin during times of economic trouble, selling it to keep the economy stable. But that means the government could interfere with the open market, which is the opposite of what Bitcoin was meant to be. Could Bitcoin end up being manipulated like regular money? If the US Treasury starts buying and selling large amounts of Bitcoin, what does that do to the market? Bitcoin was made to be free from the kind of manipulation we see with traditional money. But government interference could change all of that. If the US government has a large reserve, they would have the power to move Bitcoin's price. They say it could help stabilize the US economy, but it could also go against the interests of regular Bitcoin holders around the world. Just the idea that the government could manipulate the market might scare people away from investing in Bitcoin, hurting its growth. Another controversial part of the plan is using Bitcoin that the government has seized from criminals to build the reserve. There are big ethical questions here. Asset seizure is already a tricky topic, and relying on this could lead to government abuse. Plus, this idea goes against Bitcoin's core principle of letting people control their own property. Seizing assets raises a lot of questions about fairness. If Bitcoin taken from criminals becomes a big part of the reserve, law enforcement might feel pressured to seize even more assets, which is a dangerous road to go down. Bitcoin's philosophy is about giving people control of their wealth without fear of it being taken by the government. This is best achieved through self-custody. But this plan also goes against the idea that it can make it so that the government makes a financial reason to take Bitcoin, which would hurt the trust people have in Bitcoin and its promise of self-sovereignty. The government's plan for the SBR comes with more regulations, and with more regulations comes yet again more grasps at control. As more rules come into place, people worry about how it could affect the rest of the crypto world. The US government says these regulations are meant to keep things stable, but at what cost to Bitcoin's original values? More regulation might make Bitcoin seem safer, but it could also hurt innovation and limit the openness that makes Bitcoin special. If the government makes it harder for people to use or hold Bitcoin, it could discourage regular people and businesses. We need to find a balance between making Bitcoin stable and keeping the freedom that it stands for. Right now, we are facing a fork in the road. Another concern coming out of the report is how the strategic Bitcoin reserve could be used as a geopolitical tool. The report says it could be used to counter countries like China, which are creating their own digital currencies. By tying Bitcoin to government power, we risk turning it into something that strengthens state control rather than limits it. Can a tool meant to reduce government power be used by the government to extend its reach? Using Bitcoin as a geopolitical weapon is complicated. On one side, holding a Bitcoin reserve could give the US an advantage in a world where digital currencies are becoming more important. On the other side, it could change what Bitcoin is supposed to be, from a tool that empowers people to a tool used by governments. This shift could make Bitcoin a symbol of state power rather than a decentralized project driven by the community. The consequences of this change could be huge and could change the future of Bitcoin. Another part of the report talks about the potential environmental benefits of Bitcoin. It suggests that Bitcoin mining could stabilize energy grids and encourage investment in renewable energy. If the government does step in, though, there's a risk that their rules could stop this innovation. Instead of letting the market find the best ways to mine Bitcoin, government policies could force changes that don't work well for miners or the community. It could even start to concentrate mining and help them get a form of centralized control over the network itself. So what does all of this mean for the future of Bitcoin? Well, it comes down to a basic conflict. Bitcoin was created to give people financial freedom away from government control. Now it's at a crossroads. Will it stay a symbol of freedom, or will it become just another tool for government control? The future of Bitcoin could have a huge impact on our financial freedom. The choices we make today will decide what Bitcoin becomes for future generations. Next time you have a friend reach out about Bitcoin, don't just tell them to buy it, teach them how to self-custody it and why. The story of Bitcoin is still being written, and it's in our hands to write what comes next. That's why we're building out learningcrypto.com and doing what we can to make sure that original dream is fulfilled. Thanks for watching, and I hope you spread this message too.